when there was an issue there. But that kind of behavior, even that mentality, saying that to us should not have ever happened. And even with the teacher that she had, my granddaughter had, which I was blessed to be able to get her test results. She tested at the beginning of the school year with the reading and math at the 9th grade level. And I had requested for her to be put back up to her appropriate grade, the 6th grade, and was drug out throughout the whole school year by the principal. No questions, no calling back. And I'm looking at her score in reading. It only went up 1 point. So she came in already reading 9th grade. It only went up 1 point. And with her math, she went up like 4 points. That's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. The teacher, I'm questioning, is she certified? Because when she graduated and walked across the stage for 5th grade, she only got a certificate for reading achievement and improvement. She didn't get nothing for AB. She was on the honor roll all year long, but I saw her give the same certificate for AB honor roll to several other students in the class. This teacher had an issue with my granddaughter. And the parent, you gotta wait. But she had an issue with us. And when she greeted her, she only shook her hand, but she hugged the other students. That is not acceptable. And that made me question. She did not have the proper training for conflict resolution. But like I say, we need to do something about that, because my granddaughter, I'll let her speak on it, somewhere or another, the student that she had been bullied by all year long stabbed a kid in the classroom. Why is this happening in the class? And why had it taken a whole school year for us to be able to talk to her, in which it led to her being kicked out of the school and not allowed in the school, public schools, on a false claim of having a gun, and she didn't have one. And that came from Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Sister Muhammad. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Thank you, ma'am. Please state your name, please.
Okay, yeah. My name is Traci. My daughter goes to Brunel STEM Academy. I was the one that was accused of having a gun on school grounds. My major concern is the bullying at Brunel. When my daughter first she went to the teacher said, "Don't tell me nothing unless you bleeding or hurt." So my daughter was coming home, when I say literally every day, crying, and she said, "Mama, I don't know what to do." I said, "Let me try to call the principal to talk to her." I tried to talk to Miss Shea. Miss Shea kept saying, "Okay, I'll take care of it." That's the principal at Brunel. Well, when I'm telling her stuff, she said, "Oh, I didn't know any of this happened." But it's supposed to be reported to her, which means your staff ain't even doing what they're supposed to do. So my daughter came home to me and told me Miss Shea, the girl was calling her, the girl that was bullying her. My daughter, Miss Shea, told her, "Well, cuss words ain't that serious, so don't even come to me and tell me that." So yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a parent that come up there and I'm gonna stand behind my child. But when it comes to me standing up there behind my child and I speak out because y'all not doing your job, y'all want to ban me from the school, to where it was lies told on me saying I had a gun on school grounds, that the police officer, Officer Huey, said she searched my car and found a gun on school grounds. Now that came from the security guard. So when I asked Officer Huey, when they gave me the letter that I was banned, I'm trying to ask Officer Huey, what gun, what day, what time did you? She didn't want to. She physically touched her hand and told me, "Get out before I arrest you." So I couldn't come to the school all year long to come up there and try to talk to the people that's about stuff that's going on with my daughters. Everything eased out. Last week I went up there. I said I'm gonna take a chance to go up here for my daughter's graduation. When I went up there, Miss Shea, she did let me come to the school, even though I was not only that, it was also a rumor that I said I was gonna shoot the school up, which I wouldn't even do that because my children go there. And my main concern is my children's safety. So I went up there for my daughter's graduation last week. When I went up there, Miss Shea let me in. She had 3 of her staff members following me, the lunch lady, the janitor, and the security guard that told me a gun was found in my car. When I say I was walking literally every step I take, they're following me. My mother called in and asked them why they're doing that. The girl said, "Well, your daughter seemed like she came here. She ain't even supposed to be here, blah, blah, this and that." I let it go, okay? So then my mother called the principal and said, "Why is your staff following my daughter?" She proceeded to tell my mama, "Well, I had them to dog watch her." If anybody know what dog watching is, that means you're ready to attack. And me, like I told them, nobody gets to dog watch me, and then my safety is in it. And you think I'm not gonna stand up for myself? my main concern is Brunel. None of my kids has went to the other school, so I can't speak on them. But as far as Miss Shay go, she needs to go. She's not an advocate for these students for their safety. When I said my daughter is coming home every day crying, Miss Shay just said she don't care. Miss Queenie, the fifth grade teacher, like she said, she told my daughter, unless you bleeding or hurt, don't say anything. And it came to where my daughter, my sister used to work there, even asked Miss Queenie, are you trained on the bully C5? She told my daughter or my sister, no, she is not trained. So why is she working in the school? She shouldn't even be there.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
comment.
thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Amaria Armour. I used
Yes,
to.
Amara, put the microphone with
This one, is that it?
My name is Amar.
This one?
Wait, which
Okay, sorry about that. I'm sorry.
My name is Amaria Armour. I am 12 years old, and I am going to the 7th grade. And at Brownell STEM Academy, the staff up there, they were like, they really didn't care like what was going on with students being bullied or anything like that. Like when I was telling my teacher that the girl was bullying me and calling me types of names like the B word and things like that, my teacher would tell me, don't tell me anything unless you're bleeding or hurt. And the girl, like, she was kicking me, walking past my desk, kicking me and stuff like that. And I tried to tell my teacher, and she told me, well, I don't see you bleeding. And so one day we were on the carpet at reading time. The girl, she just kept touching me. Not tried to tell the teacher, and the teacher, she just kept saying, don't tell me anything. And so she touched me again. And so I stood up for myself and I hit her. Miss Shay wasn't there this day. It was a substitute principal. So the substitute principal called Miss Shay and said, what do you want to do? And Miss Shay said, well, I don't have time for it, so we could just suspend Amaria. And I used to cry out and I would tell Miss Shay what was going on, and Miss Shay would never believe me until one day I was screaming and crying, and I begged her to check the cameras. She checked the cameras, and there was like 4 people. I was in the corner, and they came over there. They were like bullying me, saying words to me, and messing with me. And then Miss Shay, she like apologized to me, and she called my mom and told her what was happening. And like when they were cussing, I told Miss Shay, she was yelling at me for me telling. I'm telling so that I don't react back and get in trouble. But when I try to tell, I get in trouble. And so at this point, it was useless for me to tell. And so I started going back and telling my mom what was going on. And my mom was trying to talk to the principal first. And then Miss Shay, she didn't do anything. And so my mom, she asked me to point out the girl who was bullying me in the pickup line. When I pointed the girl out, my mom seen her, and the girl, she was like cussing at me. She called my mom the B word. And the girl, I guess she went home and she told her mom that my mom called her the B word. And the girl's mother came to my mom's car. I was in the passenger seat, and the lady was banging on the passenger seat window. And when she was banging on the passenger seat window, I jumped because I was scared. And my mom was like, who is this? And I said, that's Alea's mom. And so my mom, she got out the car and she was telling her, like, don't bang on my window. I could have had any weapon. Oh, yeah, and last week at school, Alea, she stabbed the boy in the arm with a pair of scissors.
She just have a few more seconds and I'm her advocate and I'm going to ask her to speak out on how that staff member that was working the lunchroom aide, how she was mistreating her and laughing and the things she did. So I'm here advocating her.
When I was walking down the hallway, the lunch lady, I would walk down the hallway and she would just stare at me up and down. Sometimes she would chuckle, sometimes she would just stand there and just look me up and down.
Thank you. Then there's any other speakers who'd like to speak, the next item. We're gonna do something, the superintendent don't have a, remarks to make. Not got a comment, but something. Okay.
Just wanted to, make sure that we acknowledge, the city council president, from this area who works with, the Central Park, Fairfield, just the neighborhood associations in this area. And, that we wanted to just acknowledge her work, and we want to make sure that she gets a shovel and a hard hat as well, for being, the city council woman in this area and being the president of city council. So we just wanted to make sure we acknowledge that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I would like to ask the CFO, Ms. Danielle Templeton, to come forward for the presentation of the final budget amendment for 2025 through 2026. The proposed initial budget and tax levy for 2026 to 2027.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening, Board. Good evening, Superintendent Jones. So, you can go ahead and go to the next. So this is our annual budget hearing to discuss the tax levies, our final amendment for the 24-25 or the 25-26 school year. Sorry, trying to take us back. And then the initial budget presentation for the 26-27 school year. So we have our tax levies. So the 2026 tax levies. So these are the taxes that will be levied beginning this summer, July 1 through June 30th of 2027. Our operating fund is at 17.7774 mils. Our sinking fund is at 1.1649 mils, and the debt fund is at 2.82 mils. And the 25-26 final amendment. So just some key variables that I wanted to share before we start to look at the numbers are that our general fund, the initial projection was $10,000 per pupil, and with that we did receive $10,050 per pupil this year, so there was a $50 per pupil increase. The state aid per pupil amount was for 2,569 scholars. That was 69 scholars more than the initial projection. It's been updated to reflect all of our grant funding that's been awarded for the year at budget revenue expense neutral. There's increased facility costs, improvement costs. Do you all have it in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have.
oh, there we go. All right, it's back. Increased facility improvement costs, and that is due to the award from the Mott Foundation for our playground project. So the $7 million that we received from the Mott Foundation for the playground projects, and also some initial budget dollars associated with the design and the demolition, beginning demolition at the new Flint High School site. There's some budget adjustments to reflect as I'm coming into the role, really making sure and reviewing all of our financials, making sure that we're up to date on all of our expenditures and taking care of anything that may be outstanding. For the school lunch fund, you'll notice that we do have kitchen upgrades that provide service at the individual sites. So putting in the freezers and redoing some of the kitchens, spending down our excess fund balance. So there is an increase in what we spent at the food service. So the first budget that we'll look at is the general fund. So the initial budget for the general fund was $54.2 million. And the increased budget is $90.9 million. So that's a variance of $36 million in revenue. But again, that ties back to our grant funding, as well as the funding from the Mott Foundation and the state for the high school and the playground projects. Expenditures were initially budgeted at $66.8 million with a use of fund balance of $12.6 million. And the final budget is 99 million in expenses with the use of 8.2 million. So you'll notice that significant difference. And what that ties to is there was money in the budget for the finishing of the homes, Brownell, that work, and making sure we had general fund dollars committed in case the project went over budget from what was initially proposed. So there was about $4 million in there, and we only used $1 million of that. So that's $3 million of this $4 million savings was due to that significant reduction of that $4 million. And then there is staffing vacancies, not having being fully staffed, having contracted staff that the cost is not as much as having a hired staff member. So that accounts for the remaining balance. The next fund that we're gonna talk about is our school lunch fund. And the school lunch fund, just a little bit of a variance from the initial projection. It was projected to have 2.9 million in revenue, and we had 2.87 million in revenue. The expenditures were projected at 3.68 million, and we actually came in about 3.71 million. The significant, we carry a significant excess fund balance, so we are able to use that. The state of Michigan says that you can have 3 months worth of expenses in your fund balance for food service. Ours, we had an excess of about $848,000 last year. So we have been able to spend that down with the renovations of the kitchen. So looking at going forward, we'll continue to monitor our excess fund balance and look at projects, especially with the new high school coming. If there's any opportunity to use food service fund balance to construct the new kitchen at the new high school, we will be keeping our eye on that and planning for saving funding to do that for the future. The next fund is our student activity funds. That was projected to have a revenue of 65,000. It looks like it's going to come in more at 42,000, but the expenditures are projected at 65,000. Are going to come in around 62,000. That again equates to some things that were outstanding. The money was in the bank from classes in prior years to pay some expenses. So we've made sure that we're reviewing all of those and getting them cleaned up. So we're going to use about $20,000 of that fund balance. The sinking fund is the next fund that we're going to talk about, and that is our the energy conservation bond that the district has a sinking fund for. So it was the revenue was projected at 653,000. It's actually going to come in around 1.1 million. The cost of the expenditures are $809,750. That is a set payment. There's an amortization schedule. So the first 10 years, we are set at what we can pay, so we can't pay down any extra, but we do project to have an excess of fund balance of 353,000 this year. The next one is the debt fund, which is our financing stability bond. And that one was projected at 1.7 million. Actual collections are going to be about 2.7 million, but the payment on that bond is 1.8 million. But we do have adding to the fund balance of that of $923,000. So I will take just a moment and stop there to see if you have any questions on the amendment of the 25-26 budget.
Any board member have any questions? See, trustee.
I wonder, you, on one of those slides, you said we only used $1.something million and we had 3.
Which one was it?
That was in the general fund, the
fund.
general fund. So there was money set aside in case the grant funding we had did not fully cover the renovations. So there was money committed And remember, the initial budget was done in June of last year, and with the transitions in our finance office this year, there wasn't an amendment. So it was a projection back in June of last year, not knowing if there would be enough grant funding to cover that project. So that 3 million, it helped reduce what we used of our fund balance. So that original projection was for over 12 million, and we actually only used around 8 million.
Thank-
You're welcome.
One more, we have one.
Yes.
Trustee McIntyre?
So with the student activity fund,
Madam Chair.
why was there so much of a variance in the initial budget and the final?
And what we collected,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what past years have looked like to know what funds, I don't know if there was less fundraising, but I can look into that and find out where the projection came from. It was recommended to me that it's typically around 65,000, so that is my projection for next year, but I can definitely dig into why it looks different.
okay, because I know that a few years ago, we did have a finding with the student fund. And
Okay.
so I'm kind of keeping an eye on it, because even though it seems like it's not a very large amount, we did have a significant finding, and I can't remember, was it 2 years ago? Two, and I also know that there were some other issues with the student fund, so I just would like to have more information perhaps.
Absolutely.
Trustee Rutherford?
All right, thank you. Danielle?
Yes.
Oh, hi, good job. I'm gonna go slide by slide. I wrote a couple of notes. So thank you for responding to that excess of 3 million. I was gonna ask, how did we absorb it? So it sounds like you answered that for me already, which is good. The school lunch fund, so we have excess of 3 months. You have, explain
Yes,
it.
we had an excess fund balance of, we had about $848,000 in
Mm-hmm,
excess of 3 months of expenses.
okay,
So annually, the state does make you create a spend down plan for anything above the 3 months.
anything above the 3 months? Okay, so help me. So parentheses is negative? Or no? Correct, okay, okay. I would love to see red to kind of help me a little bit.
Oh,
so I'll know
absolutely, I can do
exactly.
that.
Okay, that'll help me out. Okay, so the energy, let's flip to that one.
So which one, I'm sorry?
Energy, I mean the sinking fund.
Yes,
I wrote, okay, so the 353,000, that's set. Is that what did I hear you say that that's set? Where
the
we-
payment is set, yes,
Okay.
for 10 years.
So we can't go above or below that,
So it's
correct?
on an amortization schedule, so
Mhm.
every year it fluctuates just a little bit,
Mhm.
based on that amortization schedule. So each year we pay a little bit more towards principal and a little bit less towards interest.
Okay,
But for 10 years, we're not able to refund that
Okay.
and use our fund balance.
what year are we on of the 10?
It will be 2030 before we can do that.
Oh, I'll be a little bit older. Okay, 2030. All right, so let's go to the debt fund.
Yes,
Okay, so I see expenditures of 1.8 million, and then the final budget, I'm going out to the fund balance used was 923,000. Right? Am I looking at that right? The
The-
stability bond, the finance stability bond.
so we're actually adding to our fund balance 923,000.
So we're adding to it.
Yes.
Okay, so we can go above and beyond on that for the payment, or am I
Not yet.
misunderstanding
That's
that?
the same thing. We have to wait until 2030.
So 2030?
Yes.
Okay, can you like notate that on this? Cause I was finna say we got some extra money.
I sure can.
You should see me.
I can notate that it's restricted funds.
Yeah, okay, cause you should have seen me pick up my pen. I said, I done found some money. Thank you. That was very simplistic, and it really helped me to see exactly where we are. And just that red will help me, and we'll be good.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. So we'll move into the projected budget for the 26-27 school year. So we'll first talk about the key variables that are impacting the initial budget. So for the general fund, Superintendent Jones and I were very conservative in our planning as I'm learning the district. So we maintained, due to the fact that there is not a budget from the state yet, we can always hope that that's done by the time we get to this point, but unfortunately it's not. So we were conservative and maintained the foundation allowance of $10,050. And based on recommendations from what the ISD shows, what Shanda has done in the past, we used the 2,500 students. In the next year, that will give me some time to really look at the history of the students and create some processes for us to really discuss what does our enrollment look like. Do we think that we'll decline, or are we going, we're hoping, I know that we're all hoping that we're gonna have a turnaround in that. So for now, being conservative, we're using that 2,500 students. Grants that we have, so grant funds that we know we are receiving are being budgeted revenue expense neutral. We did receive our allocations for Title 1, 2, and 4 this year, which is great news. Last year, we didn't know any of that. So we did receive our title allocations. So that initial amount is included in the budget at a revenue expense neutral. We have projected for salary increases, so step increases for staff. We have a wage opener for the parapros that we still need to look at. So there is money to account for salary increases. There is an increase of 3.1% to the health insurance cap. So the mandated hard cap of what districts have to pay for health insurance. So we have, because our plans are more costly than the hard cap now, we know that we're going to increase our cost by that 3.1%. The other thing to talk about here is, again, I'm budgeting for us to fill our staffing, because the hope is we're going to direct hire our staff. So this budget is built around having direct hired staff and not contracted staff.
Thank you.
The capital project for the Flint High School is a large chunk of the money that is in this year's budget. We do have 2 grants that at this time we're not expecting for next year. We were awarded a year 6 of the literacy grant, and the 11S Flint emergency funding at this time we are not planning to receive. The school lunch fund, the spend down of, we'll continue to work on our spend down of excess fund balance, making sure that we have all of that spent down and that we're planning with the putting in the kitchens at the elementary. There is some work that we need to do there. So we're in a very blessed situation that our food service department has the money to pay for that, and we don't have to cover that with general fund dollars. The next slide is, I kind of wanted to show you, because our budget is kind of misleading. When you look at it and you see that we have $95 million, but 59% of that funding is restricted. So $63.2 million of our funds, unfortunately, we have input in how to spend it, but there's rules and regulations about how we can spend that money. So I just wanted to show you a breakdown of that 59%, 61% comes from the state in our MBHHS school wellness program grant, the 21H partnership grant, our 31A funding, and Great Start Readiness program that is funded through the ISD as a subrecipient. And then we also have the Section 12D, that is the Flint High School project money. Our federal grants are at about 30% of that funding, and that's the consolidated application, the Title I, the Title II, the Title IV. And then our IDEA preschool and regular special education funding is federal dollars. And then we have local grants, about 9%. So this does not include our $100 million grant. This does include the $5.5 million that was awarded through the Community Foundation from the MAP Foundation, and then our EDP grant. So looking at the general fund, the first column is just a recap of where we said we were going to end the 25-26 school year. The second column is the projected initial budget for 26-27. So our revenue for the general fund is projected at 95.4 million with a projection of 107.6 million in expenses, which is a use of about 12.2 million of our fund balance. And we know we have some work to do and some conversations to have around the use of that fund balance. And that if we continue down that road, using $12 million each year is going to put us in a bad situation. But I think our presentation during the regular board meeting you're aware of it and you're being proactive to addressing that. The school lunch fund. Again, we're projecting about 2.8 million in revenue and 3.3 million in expenses, spending down $500,000. So we will, and I will bring some updates to you throughout the year of what that excess fund balance looks like and how we're spending those dollars and how we're planning. One of the things I spoke about was using it for the new high school. So Tiffany Houston from the Chartwell's company will be meeting with her, and I will be meeting with the state to see if we can project and plan for that. If we can project and plan for our use of fund balance to put in the kitchen in the new high school. So that we're proactively, if we can pay for it with food service funds, then that leaves us money to do other things with the new high school.
Perfect.
The sinking fund, again, collecting 1.2 million in revenue. You'll notice that payment is just a little bit more at $829,350. But again, we're going to be adding to that fund balance in the sinking fund. Yes, Superintendent.
The student activity fund.
Oh,
skip
did
that
I miss one?
Yeah, you skipped that one.
I apologize.
No problem.
So again, I did budget this revenue expense neutral at $65,000, and I will dig into where those funds have come from in the past so that we have a better idea of, is that $65,000 realistic, or should we be using a different number? So I'll make sure that we have that information. Okay, now the sinking fund, sorry. So again, revenue of 1.2 million. And then the payment of the 829,000. So we will be adding again to the fund balance, the 372,000. And I tried to talk them into, there must be a way for us to start paying early. And they said, you can talk to your legal counsel, but they're gonna tell you no. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, debt fund, 2.8 million in the debt fund with expenditures of 1.8 million, adding to the fund balance of $1 million. And that is the presentation of the 26-27 initial budget.
Board member, any more questions or concerns?
Madam Chair.
Okay.
Go ahead, I already spoke. Go ahead.
Trustee,
You go first.
Trustee King.
Can you this work?
Turn your mic so maybe the light is on.
Oh, no, no.
All right. Hi, Ms. Danielle. Thank you for presenting this in this, I would say, more detailed way. I want to thank you for that. You just recently started. You're not even 6 months in yet, right?
I'm at 3 months.
3 months. I want you to be at 6, right? So hey, thank you. Thank you for taking the reins. Thank you for being honest with us. Also, thank you for answering the questions. My request would be on the restricted grant funding slide. I'm sure you have a breakdown of what each fund costs. I know we have the percentage there, but I think providing a breakdown of what that looks like by cost, and we can add it up to that full total. Not saying that you don't have it, but more so for us to keep track. So we have it here, as we go forward, we know where we started at for each grant. As we talked about grant zero balance, we got things coming up. I think it'd be good for us to have that starting number and that we have for each one to go back and reference to.
Absolutely.
I thank you.
Are you done?
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford?
Thank you. Good job, Danielle.
Thank you.
I think Trustee King, he kind of went along with what I was going to ask. What is the amount for the Title I, Title II, Title IV? what are the numbers? So I'm looking at how much is it? I actually wrote that. So, love the comment about you saying that the 84K is in good standards. One of the things that we saw a lot, I heard a lot last year was we were hitting general funds. So especially when it comes around the food. So we won't hear that. You don't anticipate us hearing general funds as it relates to the food balance, correct? Am I correct in what I'm
That is
saying?
correct. We will not
Okay.
get general fund
All
dollars.
right. And right now we're currently going to be taking, looks like a $12 million deficit with the general funds yearly if we don't make some necessary changes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And that,
Go
to
ahead.
be fully honest, that amount
Please be
will-
honest.
That amount will increase each year
Mhm.
with step schedules and insurance increases, operation cost increases.
Mhm.
So that cost, that could be a little bit more each year.
Okay, so I'm gonna backpedal a little bit. So it looks like you and Superintendent Jones, you guys created a cushion for yourself as it related to the funding allowance for the students. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you kind of have a cushion.
Yes.
You mind sharing how much of a cushion? You don't have to.
Currently, the projection is an additional $250.
So
per
about
student.
$250,000.
So it's about $693,000.
Oh, so that's little. So 93. Oh, okay, that's better. Okay, and my last one, with us having with the student activity fund, I would just love for that, and colleagues, please hear me through this. I would love for us to add 35,000 to that to show a major interest in the students' activities, so that students can have what they need, because we're gearing up to participate more in sports with us joining these leagues and things like that, making sure that the students have an activity bus. So, look in some ways to where we can kind of pour into that. And then also, I think Treasurer Dillon had mentioned it. Him and I had a conversation a couple years ago about a campaign as it relates to alumni of the district, fundraising, to where we can actually have funding from individuals of the past, especially with us bringing a new school. So if we could look into something like that, how do we go about creating a campaign fundraising activity for former alumni students? I think that could kind of help with that 35K. I think I know one person that's willing to donate 35K to get us there. But that was all I have. Thank you so much for that. Very good.
Any other board member have any?
Madam Chair, could I clarify something?
Yes.
Ms. Dan, so with the student activity fund,
Yes.
could you explain, how do you come up with 65,000? Is that for students to withdraw? Is that through fundraising? How is that?
So the student activity funds are, sometimes we receive donations from different organizations, community members. Mott Foundation had a grant this year about celebrating their 1926. So it's just different things that are given to the district to benefit students, as well as fundraising, senior dues, yearbook sales. Those types of things go into our student activity fund. So the money is with a purpose of only being used for the students for an extracurricular type activity, not for day to day.
Got you. So this includes both grants and fundraising efforts.
Correct.
And
And,
there's
and it would be local grants. It wouldn't be like a grant we got from the state, but it would be
100%.
like a local grant.
So there's potentially a breakdown how that's divided, that you would have, right, for each, what
Yes,
that looks like.
Each building, actually, that's one of my summer projects, because I also want to make sure I understand the student activity funds. So I will be setting meetings with each principal to review their student activity funds, make sure that they know what they have, so that they're using those funds, because we really should be using the money in the year that we earn it, because that's the purpose of those donations or those fundraisers.
Thank you for the clarification.
Trustee.
Do we have student activity buses?
We had paid for busing for afternoon activities, but it does not come out of the student activity fund.
Is it a possibility to purchase activity buses, like for students that just say want to go to the HBCUs and have teachers to take them or whatever, field trips, things like that.
So I would say that most of the time we rent, but if we do buy a bus, we would have to maintain it. We would have to maintain the buses, and not quite sure at this moment, but we could research that of what that would look like. But right now, we're renting buses through through grant funds when we need to go on field trips.
And what is the turnaround on that when the teacher's asked to use a bus?
What is the turnaround on asking to use a bus?
Excuse me. Excuse me. You're speaking from the audience. We having the board meeting.
I can get back with you on the turnaround.
Okay.
I think it's like 30 days, but sometimes if there's an emergency or we need to get something going, they just reach out and we'll let them do it.
And the buildings have field trip forms where they're planning their field trips, so they know if they need transportation, if it's something that first student can provide for them, or if it's something where we might need to get a charter bus to provide that. So the buildings they make sure that they take care of those, and we make sure that there's grant funds to pay for students to go on field trips. So we do have that written into our Title I grant. Each building commits a portion of that to make sure our scholars have opportunities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I wrap up, Trustee Loman, you have anything to say? I want to thank you for your presentation. Those concerns that board members have, individual concern during a budget hearing, we would move those concerns over to finance, because these are you're asking her question, the decision that board makes. Our job is to just present the budget and the data. And so if you got concern about different issues and stuff, student activity, Trustee Lona is our chairperson, and he has set up a meeting for board members to have those discussions. So I appreciate you. You don't have to give an answer. You don't have to make anything different than what you're doing now, because some of these things we are talking about goes directly on a board meeting. Other than that, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
I like the clarity. I've been sitting here for 6 years, Trustee McIntyre and I think we're getting closer to clarity and understanding. It was very easy to understand. And I still like a little bit more information. I work on this here student activity fund, and I think we can do that under the leadership of Trustee Lona when he have his chairperson meeting. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keeping in mind this, we are joining this meeting. The time is, if I'm correct, 6:15. Board member, I want us to keep in mind that the library requesting that we leave at about 7:30. So time is very essential here. This meeting is adjourned at 6:15. I'm going right into the next meeting. I would like to call the Flint Board of Education annual budget hearing the meeting in order at 6:15. It's the regular. You got Angie here. Yes, we just keep clean out we just finished. Okay. I would like to call the Flint Board regular board meeting to order at 6:15. Board members, I call your name. Please sit for the rest. Trustee King.
Present.
Trustee Rutherford.
Present.
Treasurer Lona.
Present.
Vice President McIntyre.
Present.
Trustee Booth.
Present.
Secretary Perkins. and
Present.
Myself, President McNeil, 7 present. I now call upon Secretary Perkins to read the district mission statement.
Okay. You ain't in there.
I'm just reading what you gave me.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. District mission statement. It is the mission of the Flint School District to develop a community of learners who are prepared to live, work, and contribute in an ever-changing society. The Flint Board of Education Standards of Practice. In order to provide outstanding leadership and better serve the Flint community schools, we, the members of the Flint Board of Education, commit to the following standards of practice. Number one, we will be consistent in our dealings with each other as well as students, staff, and community.
Number two, we will model trustworthiness and honesty in our relationship with each other, with our superintendent, and with our constituents.
Number three, we will focus on a common goal of providing the best education possible for the students in the Flint Community Schools.
Number four, we will respect the diverse views that each of us bring to the organization, as well as the view of others that we interact with as we carry out the vision of the Board of Education.
We'll be open and authentic with each other, our staff, and community.
As we work to make decisions, we will focus on issues and not personalities.
Our decisions will be based on, our decisions will be student-centered and based on objective facts.
We will practice good listening skills to better understand and fellow Board of Education members and constituents.
At this time, we will have comments from the public. Just as anyone from the public would like to speak. We ask that you state the reason for addressing the board and that your remarks remains to 3 minutes on matters within authority of the board and not address individuals by name. The presiding officer of the board shall have the right to limit the number of persons who may address the board on the same subject. Please state your name before addressing the board. Seeing that there's no one for public speaking, we're going to presentation. At this time, we have a couple of presentations. First, I would like to ask Kim Lindsay from Rehman Group to come forward for the zero balance budget presentation.
Thank you.
Following that presentation, we will have a graduation initiative update and the NWE
Thank you.
data presentation from the board consultant, Ms. Traci Davis, and the director of academic, Ms. Kelly Fields. Please proceed.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Jones. Danielle and I ran into each other at the MSBO annual conference and said the board was deliberating whether they thought they might want to go through the zero-based budget process. So I put together just a few slides on how that might go. If you did go down this road, you would probably bid this out if you're going to use an outside consultant to do it. But just some general thoughts. I don't know if anybody has been on the board. I know you tried this maybe several years ago with Don Sobey. You remember Don Sobey? So I'm just going to run through a few slides. Feel free to ask questions as we go. I just want to try to give you some clarity as to what this process really entails. Danielle did a nice job in her budget presentation talking about how your funding works. Because you are so heavily funded with grant funds, you have so little opportunity to squeeze other stuff out from your regular local funding. So it makes this process, I don't know, harder, but it does require you to try and fit the grants and the purpose of the grants into the priorities of the district and the mandates from the state of Michigan. So, so that being said, I put together, a definition of a zero-based budgeting approach. It's a financial planning method where all programs, staffing, and expenditures are evaluated and approved starting from a zero base. It requires administrators to justify each cost in alignment with district goals, legal requirements, and student needs regardless of prior year funding levels. So it's basically, you start from zero every year and you build the budget from the bottom up. So the first time through is a lot of work. And then after that, it will be less work because you've already done some of the homework on as far as what programs are working, what do those programs cost, that kind of stuff. In this process, there are no automatic carryovers in the budget. So just because you gave $400,000 to facilities last year may not be the same number you give them this year based on what's going on. And speaking of facilities, your facility cost will change with a new high school and what you do with the building that you're leaving from the high school and how you renovate that and all that good stuff. Program by program justification. So leaders explain the purpose of the program, the impact on students, student achievement, probably culture is probably a big piece too. In whether it meets state and federal mandates. So realize the state of Michigan pushes a lot of stuff on you. It's required, some of the curriculum is required. The achievement goals are dictated by the state, and the feds have their own things added on top of that as well. Also in the zero-based budgeting module or ZBB, alignment with funding revenue streams, your spending is prioritized based on student achievement goals and your district's strategic goals and your priorities. And I know you do that already. You're already thinking about what is the priority for the next year. Actually, you're probably looking at the priorities for the next series of years, trying to raise the scores, you're trying to get culture, all those types of things. The other thing the ZBB process does potentially is provide more transparency and accountability. Gives clear documentation, and quite frankly, if you go through this process, part of it would be very detailed documentation of the process you went through. Which people did you need to speak to? What are all the programs we've identified, the cost models, all that kind of good stuff. So that's valuable for you as a school board member. It's valuable to your community, depending on how you communicate that stuff. Stakeholders, the Mott Foundation is investing with you to help get this new building up and going. And then the outside auditors, I'm an auditor myself, been doing this for 43 years. They're not the main concern here. The main concern here is the building the budget, doing it what you want it to do. And I won't sugarcoat it. It is a lot of work. Go to the next slide. Some general thoughts, because I understand you'd like to try and do this for the 27-28 school year. So we have a year to get there, right? So looking at maybe how this would look from the board's perspective going backwards. Like tonight, you're adopting budgets for next school year. You'll be doing the same thing about the same time next year for 27-28. So that's the last step in the process. I would anticipate that you probably would have and I think you probably still work in the committee of the whole structure. You have finance committee, but you may have committee of the whole as well. So you'll have a final budget workshop. This process will come up with that probably in the month of May with all those plans, what the administration has come up with, what you've come up with, as well as through some other things we'll be doing. And then you'll make any modifications you need to before you get to June. And then before that, I would anticipate there's going to need to be some discussion about priorities. So there'll be, I would think, a series of workshops after you do the First Amendment. Now that Danielle's here, normally you do a budget amendment after student counts come in the fall. The state budget is all settled. Hopefully we're going to actually have a budget before this month is over. We'll see. And you usually do a budget amendment in that fall after you know how many kids are here. So you can kind of fine tune things. So that's kind of the end really of the 26-27 budget process will be in the fall. That's usually when I talk to board, that's really the numbers you're working with. Once you get into the fall, you got some things now. And then I would assume from that point on, so that's going to be maybe November, December, maybe even January, that we would have monthly, bi-monthly meetings with you to talk about priorities and such up to final approval. Realize this process can be driven totally by you, or you can get help to drive the process. So what I've done here, as I said, if you have somebody from the outside come in and they started with you at the beginning of the process, this is what I would anticipate how it would run. In October or November of this year, we'd start that info gathering process with district leadership. So let's actually dive in and say, what are the programs we have? Do we know the costs of each of those programs? Do we have dedicated funding for those programs? And some you do. Some are grant funded, so you know that the dollars We know what we've got for title. We know what we're gonna do there. So delineation of, and then also delineation of services that are required under the law, such as special education, where you have no choice, you do it, and we know that that area of education is much more intensive as far as funding goes. It costs more, just, there's more services required under IEPs and stuff. And then we identify the costs for all those programs and any related offsetting revenue, and find out what the true cost of each program is. So, does this program cost us 10% more than what we have funding for? Those types of things. I think that would then provide definition and information for you as a board to say, okay, can we modify that? Is that something we shouldn't be doing any longer? And I know you've had those discussions over the years, like you got rid of transportation a long time ago, you contracted that, you've done a lot of things like that. Those are, in my mind, those are the tough discussions once you get into this deeply, if you go down this road. You're already doing some of this as well. You're just not doing it probably from the start, from zero to move up. You're actually doing it as you go through your budget process and what you think your goals are for the year. And in December through February, so for about a 3-month period of time, I think we then go through with district leadership and you start to develop your budget assumptions. Problem we have in the state of Michigan is we never have a budget until June. Last year we didn't have it until October. But you start to develop your budget assumptions. As you heard Danielle say tonight, you went conservative on student foundation allowance and student counts. Right now, it's kind of all three budgets say 250 per student, but we never know what that really means. Is it going to show up in categoricals? There's a lot of games to be played between now and the time it gets adopted. But figure out those anticipated revenue streams, the federal and state grant stuff, which you already do this process, but then matching up those grants with the programs you want to fund with them. And just as Danielle said, remember, grants are revenue neutral. So dollar in, dollar out. Title I, you get $1 million, you spend $1 million, hopefully. But we can't recognize any more revenue than we have in expenditure. So we want to try and match those streams up. And then we have unrestricted state aid, so remaining foundation allowance stuff and property taxes. So those are a very small percentage. I think Danielle's graph showed 9% and all that other stuff that was, so there's very little outside of the grant streams. And then are there any other additional revenue streams available? Which every district in the state of Michigan is looking for the same thing. Also then on the expenditure side of things, we have to adopt or find and get our assumptions there. At Flint Community Schools, the very most important thing in the budget process is that table of positions. As Danielle said, you generally can't hire all the positions you have, so you've done some contracting. When you're doing a budget, it makes it really hard because you budget for full employment, and then it's less than that. And so generally there's some cost savings there. But when you put together the first numbers, it makes things look very inflated. So doing the best to come up with what we think that's going to be. And I would include the contracted positions in there as well. Because I know some of the grants, some of those grants are funding very specific positions like psychologists, school nurses, things like that. Can we get them employed or do we have to contract that out? ORS rates, healthcare rates, any other benefits, we have to know those assumptions up front. And then all the other non-people costs, putting those in another bucket. So transportation, maintenance, utilities, capital outlay, a million different other things that aren't people related. And then the consultant, in my mind, when we're going through this process, can also but can bring forward maybe some other best practices they've seen in other districts around the state. Like I said, I've been doing this for I'm in my 43rd year. I was a school board member for 18 years at Davison. So I've been through both sides of the table on this, and there other firms will be in the same boat as far as being able to provide the service. I will say though, because of the level of knowledge and expertise to get to this, you probably won't be dealing with a junior staff accountant. It's probably gonna be a partner or a senior manager, so that means the rates are higher. So when we get to a guesstimation on cost, I'm just a wild guess I threw on the wall. You'll see that number may be higher than you're thinking. Okay, then March through May, that's when that budget actually gets totally built out. Once again, matching up revenue streams and district priorities and what you've already made decisions on as far as, yes, we are going to do these programs. The other part of it is a zero-based budget doesn't mean that you may be adopting a balanced budget. A balanced budget is revenues equal expenditures. We don't have any use of fund equity. We don't add to fund equity. So you may decide that these 4 programs absolutely have to happen, and if it costs us $100,000, we're gonna use equity to do it. And you may also say, we have 3 or 4 programs that really aren't showing the results that we're looking for, and that may save you $300,000 or $400,000 and go the other direction. So don't confuse a zero-based budget approach to a balanced budget. And then throughout 27, 28, we'll wanna monitor it. So how close did we come? Are we hitting the goals we were thinking? And once again, it'll be the same thing. You're going to adopt this budget in June. And then you'll have to fine tune this project again in the fall when you go through our budget amendment. And then one of the other pieces I know, reading your resolution that you had with this and some questions I've had, some correspondence I've had with Danielle. The other part of this is outside monitoring. So I don't anticipate, and I don't know how you would say we would audit this. There are some, we could do agreed upon procedures where you say, we'd like you to do X, Y, and Z and give us the results of that. Or it could just be a collaborative, let's look at it every quarter, let's see where we're at, and then let's provide a report to the board each quarter saying, here's how we've performed on this. And the other part of this is, as we're going through it, we're going to find areas that we missed because we didn't ask the right questions. Or we missed because something external happened. We had a boiler blow, we had a roof leak, all of a sudden we have an unintended expense. And it'll be good to just capture all of that and be able to produce a high-level narrative report to the board quarterly, which then when you get to end of year, I don't think there'll be any surprises as far as the financial results. You'll pretty much know. The other part of that is making sure the finance office is able to be maintained. Continuity there is a big thing. There's a lot of transactional work. There's a lot of HR work because there's a lot of people movement I know in the system here. So, and then maybe just a couple of slides kind of wrapping up. Just some other things to think about here. Budgeting, and I know you know this, but budgeting is not an exact science. It is an estimate. It is a plan. It is a plan for the year. It's done based on the best known facts and assumptions that you have at the time you develop it. I know districts that amend their budget on the last day of June because they think they've made all their accruals because they don't want their final budget and actuals to be, they want it to be right on. Well, that's really not. The goal is that the budget is you're funding what you need to fund that are your priorities. Some years that maybe cost you a little of equity. Some years you're able to put some money back in the bank. So remember, we adopt budgets on an annual basis, but every year that you adopt a budget, that budget has an effect on the next year. So if you use $10 million of fund equity this year, as Danielle said, you can't continue to do that for several years because equity will be gone. So maintaining an appropriate fund balance as best you can is super important. Other factors to think about in future budgets, cost to run and maintain the new high school, labor contracts, negotiations, everything goes with that. And remember, all these decisions you might make on programming and people, you have to go back to the union agreements as well to make sure that you're following all the procedures there relating to the contracts. remember, we have state aid fluctuations. It's been relatively constant, having a little add each year, but they've been moving stuff. It's been a shell game. We've added money to foundation and we've taken it away in other places. So sometimes you won, sometimes you lost in the last couple of years. And I think it's also important to, if we can keep some finance folks in place for a period of time, actually trying to put together like a 3-year projection. So if I'm gonna use some fund equity this year, here are my plans for next year to maybe stop some of that bleeding. All right, lastly, remember, this would, in my mind, this is a la carte line. Or the district would decide when they go through an RFP process, what exactly they want the outside person to do or firm to do. In my mind, the development piece, working with leadership on identifying programs, costs, working with you as a board, doing the build outs. My guess is that's 125 to 150 hours. And Kim, how did you come up with that? I basically broke it down into days, figure out how many days it would be, how many meetings, that kind of stuff. Monitoring, so that's the after part. So that would be the stuff that would happen during 27 and 28, the quarterly stuff. I'm thinking a couple of days for maybe a couple of people, every quarter. I figured maybe 100 hours plus the reporting that was with it. And I would anticipate doing that quarterly reporting, especially the first couple, face to face in a meeting like this versus just a report. So estimated cost, and this is just a total off the wall. 50 to 100 grand maybe for firms to do this. And as I look around the state, there are probably only 2 or 3 firms, maybe 4, that would be capable of doing this, that would have the experience of actually working in districts, helping people develop budgets and stuff in the past. So next steps, board needs to make your decision. As I said before, I think the initial steps on this would be like September, October. So you'd have to work backwards from there. Like if you want to do this, you need to follow your procurement requirements, which I'm sure for a project of this size with that dollar amount probably requires an RFP, posting, evaluation, responses, all that good stuff. So, and like I said, work to begin in the fall. Questions? Did I answer any questions? Did I bring anything to light that you hadn't thought about? I'm here, and you guys have a few more minutes before you have to go move on to the next item and get out of this room. So,
Madam Chair. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Board member, do we have?
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Lindsay, if you don't mind sharing, what other districts have you worked with that are kind of similar to Flint Community Schools?
We have teams at Lincoln Consolidated Schools at IPSI right now.
Okay.
So they've been in there for, 7 or 8 years, developing their budgets. But I've done finance director work at 3 or 4 other districts around the state. I actually was here for a couple of months at the tail end of our contract 10 years ago or so when we were here. It's been a while. And like I said, I've been doing the auditing side of the business as well for a long, long time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Rutherford.
Mr. Lindsay, thank you. You taught me a lot today. I think what stuck out to me is talked about FTEs versus contract and how the variance in regards to the amount that's major, because I think the bulk of our staff are contract. Mr. Jones, would you agree? Less than half or close to half.
We got a pretty loud talking base.
So you're gonna always have a variance. So I'm glad to hear that. So that kind of I love the fact that you have 43 years experience. I really like the revenue in. It's like revenue in for expense, like out. It's like I that helps to understand how if something is not coded correctly, how it can throw everything off. And it looks like with this process and what you're doing, you're able to highlight that and explain it. You know, it's one thing to find something, but not be able to explain how it happened. I think that'll help, from my perspective, me to be able to hear and understand exactly what's going on and how we don't have to use up our equity. So it sounds like this will highlight a lot. So we need to get this done sooner than later to be on schedule. But you put some hours up there, so I just want to know. It's on page 9, 125 to 150 hours. But then I see for monitoring 100 hours. Is that consecutively, or is that a part of the 125 to 150?
They're separate.
They're separate.
One is the development, and the second one is then the monitoring that will happen once it's in place. So during fiscal year 27, 28 would be the monitoring.
Okay, so we're looking at 375 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I got a little bit of math skills. I, whew, when I first heard this, I had no idea, but it's a lot to this. So I guess with us doing a lot of the renovations in the building, so we're gonna have a lot of unexpected expenses that we haven't accounted for. So how is that going to be highlighted to not throw everything off? I guess what I don't want Mr. Jones and his staff to be held responsible for something that was unexpected. So by the time it get to us, we would know this is something that's unexpected. Am I making sense with
Yeah,
my question?
absolutely.
Okay.
In my mind,
hmm
I think you have to build a placeholder in for it. So if you know you're going to be, and it's gonna depend on timing, probably, right, for the new building.
hmm
We're gonna do some stuff probably at Southwestern afterwards, so. You would have to build in some variable for that. And
Okay.
and it won't be exact, but if you know you're gonna have a certain amount of renovations, maybe the architect you're working with says, our cost estimate will be X. And you drop that in there, because your sinking fund is only for the energy improvement stuff, so
hmm
really now all you're doing is paying back those bonds, right?
hmm
So those funds would come from the general fund, they wouldn't come from the construction fund, probably, construction fund would probably, that money is all gonna be used at the high school, I guess, so.
Okay. So with that being said, it would be a good practice for us to go back and see what kind of unexpected expenditures we've had the previous year to kind of like place it, to kind of give us an idea.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, the zero-based budget is like you're trying to say, I know everything that's gonna happen in the year. But we know that's not,
Right.
it's not possible. So you do have to put some kind of a factor in there for that kind of occurrence for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Board member, as relates to time, I'm requesting that we move this to finance, off for further discussion. So we can move the other stuff down, we got 3 more things to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam,
At 7:30. So what's the pleasure of the board? It's my
Madam,
recommendation.
I agree.
And I spoke with the chairperson, yes.
Yeah, I just only had one question about cost here. Mr. Lindsay.
Do we need to talk about policy for,
Yeah, I think this is just real quick. So this is your estimated cost of in total from the lowest end to the highest end of what this will cost. And that highest end cost, you mentioned we would need a senior manager.
I'm saying this work wouldn't be able to be done by a lower level staff member at any of the firms. It would have to be somebody in a leadership position, either a senior manager or a partner.
So that senior manager is that in the higher 100,000 is that what you're saying, or is higher than that?
I'm saying it because of that mix of people, that's at the high end of the range. I think I'm thinking if the entire project were to happen, both on the planning side and the monitoring side, that you could be looking at that kind of a cost.
Thank you.
It would depend, quite frankly, on how the bid packet is put together and the questions you guys ask.
It's good for me.
Yep, Madam Chair, I'll reach out to Mrs. Beard and get a meeting scheduled so we can keep this moving.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you very much. Next, you guys can present from there, because I know you got a lot, reasons where you can present from there, that's fine with me.
Board, it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight to be able to give you updates on the graduation initiative and updates for spring data. As you're aware, our initiative of readiness, resilience, results, and rewards was brought to you back in March with an overlay of
graduation, transition activities, and some such. What I'm really proud to be able to show you today is how this graduation initiative will be able to be rolled out for next year. Our strategic focus areas, of course, will be our foundational grades of 2039 for our current kindergarten cohort and what is incoming. And then our graduating class of the next graduating class that we'll be focusing on will be our incoming freshmen. Their milestone year will be 2030. And we'll be working on making sure that we're concentrating on avoiding a freshman slide. And then also building the culture of graduation across the district for all of our schools and all of our stakeholders, including on our freshman proposal. Oh, thanks, Steve. So for our graduation initiative updates for spring 2026, they are the following. One of the things that I felt was really important for us to be able to spread the culture of graduation and the importance of every stakeholder in our district and our community being able to support those initiatives was through the purpose of educating folks on what the graduation initiative is. So one of the orders of business that will be rolling out in the fall with our Safe Schools initiatives and being the opportunity for new employees to be able to experience the onboarding implementation module. In that module, it's a self-paced module that has a graduation initiative playbook that shows all of the initiatives that will be happening in the district and who's responsible for supporting each part of these initiatives as it pertains to the positions that are held in the district. In addition to that, there's also a slide deck, which new employees would be able to view to be able to provide explanation and understanding, and as well as a graduation initiative video overview, which we're just going to play a very quick, like not even a minute of it, so you guys can get a flavor for what that looks like. We also have a parent wayfinding slide deck that would be part of our parent forum page that we had introduced to you last time, and then quiz and flashcards. That would be the experience, and all of those things that are up on the board are samplings of that module and the things that would help to help our folks to understand their play in the graduation initiative and when things will be rolling out across the district. Go to the next slide. And if we could just play just a minute of this. There's no sound. There was sound earlier. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll skip over that particular portion of it. It is available for you all to listen to and to view, and it covers the entire gamut of all parts of the graduation initiative. So all people in the district have understanding of what the graduation. Thank you.
These futures. Expect success, build resilience, finish the journey. You know, that's not just some catchy slogan you slap on a coffee mug. It is the literal core of our 2026-27 graduation initiative. What we're all doing here, it's life-changing, truly. So today we're going to break down exactly how we take that big overarching dream of graduation and turn it into a concrete daily reality for every single scholar in our district. So for this school year, we're fundamentally shifting our mindset. We are finally moving away from treating graduation as this, springtime emergency, that frantic, caffeine-fueled scramble to drag kids across the finish line in May. Instead, we're transforming our entire K-12 pipeline into a formalized, year-round operational playbook.
So every employee would have access to these particular materials to be kept up to date about what the graduation initiative entails and what parts of it that they would own and how they would be supporting it and what things are happening around the district in order to support it. The graduation initiative calendar of events is currently being populated by the principals. The rollout for the graduation initiative was shared with our principals at our last principals meeting. Before they go home for the summer, they will be populating the rest of these dates out here. These particular initiatives include everything we talked about last time and more, from the kindergarten commitment breakfast to the freshman commitment brunches, to decision days, to the transition activities from the 6th to 7th grade initiative. All of those particular initiatives will be laid out for you, and you will have by the first part of August. Those dates will be laid out for you, so you'll be able to participate in, as well as have them your fingertips to know exactly what all of these particular things are taking place across the district for you to be able to engage with, but also to be able to keep track of as we celebrate those. Next slide, please. Our Parent Success Hub will be rolling out in July of 2026. It will include, we anticipate to include all of those particular links again and more. I'll be working with Kim Willis to go ahead and get that implemented, as well as some branding that will be consistent around the district for those countdown to graduation bulletin boards that will be in every elementary school. In order to be able to support that initiative, all of the folks in my particular department have adopted schools, and they will be out helping and assisting the principals in ensuring that these graduation initiatives are met and that they're supporting the visual and the initiatives that are going on in those schools as well. Superintendent Jones has done his first TikTok. You will have a schedule of TikToks that align to the rest of the school year coming out. There should be a couple of months that Tim Willis and I will be working together to develop that calendar for you.
Next slide.
That is like, don't laugh at Superintendent. Like, he was serious. Like, y'all, he was so serious with his. He was so serious, and he did a fantastic job. But also like rolling out that TikTok initiative and taking the opportunity to map that out for you folks. So we can go ahead and carve out the appropriate time for you all to be engaged, as well as principals, leaders, staff, and whatnot. So we anticipate that first one will be rolled out in July. So the seriousness of why do we need this graduation cohort readiness and why do we need to be serious about it? As I've shared with you last time, our four-year graduation rate for Southwestern is 52.3. That is the current rate. That is far below the state's expectation of 68%, and it's far below our expectation of 100% of our students that we want to see cross the finish line. We also have a current dropout rate of 24.7, and that's currently at one of the lowest places where we've had in the last 4 years as far as dropout rate is concerned. So while we're continuing to decrease the dropout rate, we want to make sure that we are retaining our scholars for the purpose of graduation from Flint Community Schools and ensuring that not only do we meet our 68-point mark, but that we are also exceeding that to high expectations of where we want to see our young people finish at. Currently, with our our past graduating classes, we've had the total cohort size in 2025 of 174 students, with a graduation rate again of 52.39, which we discussed earlier. In 2024, we had a graduation rate of 44% for Southwestern students. In 2023, we had 36%, and in 2022, we had 43%. Again, while we are gaining traction in graduation rate, it is far below the rate of what we expect for our scholars at Point Community Schools. And that's why we embrace and understand and know that a graduation initiative isn't just about getting the kids to cross the stage, but it is about building opportunities and closing gaps where our students deserve to have those opportunities. For our current 9th graders that will be raising to 10th grade, our current 10th graders that will be raising to 11th grade, and our current 11th graders that will be raising to 12th grade, we currently have in our 9th grade rising class 155 students, and 72 of those are currently off track. In our cohort of 10th rising to 11th, we have 128 students, and with, I think it says 67 of those students are on track to graduate. And then with our cohort of 11th rising to 12th grade, we have 78 students currently, with 42 of them on track to graduate. As a result of that, the other work that we had updated you on when we rolled out the graduation initiative was a goal-setting template that the young people will be using next year. That is a template that's been pursued with the support and help of the counselors and the principals, and we'll be helping to do some work on that this summer. So to the finish line together, that's one of the most important things that we want to be able to do and that we want to support in our graduation initiative for Point Community Schools. In addition to our graduation initiative, we also wanted to show you the results of our NWEA Spring 2026 data. And I'm going to let Miss Davis, a very capable partner, and she's my Sunday lady. She's my my partner what I need to go ahead and bounce some ideas off of her, and I'm gonna go ahead and let her introduce it before we start with our NWA, data.
That's pretty interesting, but I can't even see it from here. One of the things we are working on for the board is how we report out data in general. And so I'm gonna go really global, high level about the data, and Kelly will get in the weeds because we as a board should be high level about the numbers and not like partnership schools. But part of this work is we should be reporting out not just at the end of the school year. We should be looking at kids at the quarter and the semester and looking at the system should be saying, are we on track for students, whether they take NWA by quarter, right?
3 times a year.
3 times, how did they do the next year? When we look at the graduation rate and we look at kids on track, we know that if you looked at the numbers, I saw some of you frowning, we have more than half of our freshmen this year off track. But if we have celebrated good work of opening a new school, so we got to ensure that we are keeping kids on track and getting them on track. And graduation does not start in high school, that starts at pre-K, right? So when you look at NWA scores, looking at achievement, that work starts early so that they can be successful when they get to high school. So Kelly and I have been really looking at data. Part of this work, I remember Trustee Relaford said, Traci, do you work with the superintendent's team? And we've come a long way, but I think that we are putting a lot of things in place to report back to the board to progress monitor. So you all are well informed of how the system is doing. And the system can share back with you what they're doing to rectify the situation if it's not a positive outcome, or what they are doing because it is excelling and it works. So Kelly will share about NWA scholarship growth math. I truly believe this portion we share with you, but this really is a teaching tool. When teachers look at NWA scores, they're looking at where kids are and using that data to fill in gaps to get them to the finish line, and do look at correlations to proficiency. We talk about growth. Growth is great and we should acknowledge and celebrate growth. But when you take your license, you got to be proficient. You can't grow to the test, right? So when we look at tests, this work helps them get to proficiency.
And so, the anticipation is that our MSEP scores, of course, are embargoed for a certain amount of time afterwards. We don't have access to those yet, but as soon as they are released and available, that we're working about how are we going to be, providing those particular points of data to you as
Just
great.
Just
okay.
And part of our initiative is to build a calendar out for the year of when we report out to the quarterly initiatives that you see that we are showing, so you know how we're doing on those initiatives in the system. So this will be in the year. We will be back in front of you in the beginning of the year, letting you know what dates and calendars. Another part of this work we will be building into the board's workshop with NSBA, because there's a component of that and the certification process around data and understanding academic plans. And Kelly and her academic team were going to build in to come talk about the academic plan of the district, because all those things thread together and weave together. It shouldn't work in isolation of when you're doing the work. When you think about, when you talk about bringing more kids in at the movie theater, is that working? How does that work with our graduation mission? How does all those pieces work together?
So we're gonna start with our math data first. We'll start out with our spring scores from 2022-23, and I, for sake of time, or insulting you by reading it to you, just want to go ahead and let you guys sit and take a look at what the data says there for a minute. The one thing I specifically do want to point out is that with Brownell and Doyle Ryder, we've seen consistent growth with them in the area of math. Some interesting things to point out is that Brownell was our pilot school where we started with NCN, which is an investment that the district has had in math coaching, and they've been particularly engaged at a high level of interest, and Joel Ryder as well did a lot of work with NCN as well, and making sure that we implement it appropriately. So showing a consistent growth pattern, I think is an exciting thing for both of those particular schools. For our ELA data, with the reading data, we've had tremendously a lot more, I wouldn't say tremendous success, but we've had improved success over our math and sports, where we have 4 schools that have consistently shown growth across their reading growth and meeting their growth projections in ALA, Brownell, Eisenhower, and Whitehall, showing consistent growth. And as you're aware, both Eisenhower and Freeman has shown some growth in the last year, but they have, there's a lot of uncertified teachers that are now at Freeman that couldn't contribute to that very great loss that they had from 2022 to the current state. This particular, the tracker scorecard is the scorecard that Ms. Davis had shared with you all on her initial visit. And as you'll see, it's consistent with what it was last time. Our kindergartners come in, they're ready to learn. They are the highest growing group for a couple of reasons, not just because it's kindergarten and you have the highest growth because they're in kindergarten, but because that the numbers just play that way at the early end of the spectrum with kiddos. It's tougher to get growth after they're in kindergarten, but that trend needs to be going in the upward, and all of our grades need to be increasing with some intentional practices that will be rooted in our academic plan, as well as taking a page from our partners with Green Education and being able to help us to improve in some of those grades and areas. For our strategic roadmap right now, it's making sure that we're outreaching to families, that we're keeping them, and that we're targeting chronically absent students, that we are continuing to make sure that we're calibrating around MSTEP baseline alignment and mid-year teaching coaching, making sure that we are supporting our teachers appropriately, making sure we're intentionally looking at the data, and that we are basing everything on mastery and standards. We are centering ourselves in the Flint Community Schools Graduation Initiative, ensuring and making sure that we are engaging in high quality teaching and that we're monitoring it and for the learning and of intentional transition, as well as district-wide assessments that help us to meet our growth targets with a focus on, again, standards mastery. And that will conclude our presentation for this evening.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this update. You know, this is, it helps a lot.
So I do want to make it clear, you're gonna do more training, with NWEA. I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Yes, and the team will present the academic plan on our part, and just to talk about reading, and discussing around additional KPIs, right? So we have to look at all the data and make a determination and what would be the smart goal for you all. And part of that work we discussed and bring that back so that the entire board can be a part of that conversation and not just the board academic committee and go bring those pieces back.
Miss.
Thank you.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, all right, you said.
I'm all right.
All right, thank you, guys. I now call upon Superintendent Jones to present action items to the board.
Hey, I seek a motion and a second from the board to approve 11.37 resolution to adopt final budget amendment.
So move.
It's been properly moved in second, there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just have a clarification or a question. I don't know how to say it, but I'm looking at this word, this term, unappropriated fund. That's unrestricted, free, no restrictions. Can somebody explain that? If you see it, it's all over throughout everything.
Going back to the
So you could, yeah, resolution, yeah, for action. It's all through.
Danielle, did you want to just, you can sit right
Yeah, you
there,
could just
we running out of
explain
time. You can sit right
unappropriated.
there.
Yeah.
So the unappropriated fund balance is the amount of money that we have left in our fund balance. So if you look at after the expenditures, it says the projected June 30, 2026 fund balance is 38 million.
Mhm.
That's your unappropriated.
Okay, so if you go throughout each one, be it further resolved, go to page 22. It says it's right there, so it's throughout all of them.
Yes, because it's that resolution for each fund.
Mm-hmm.
So the several different funds that I showed you, the general fund,
Mhm.
the safety fund, the school service fund, the student activity fund, and the debt fund. You have that statement for each one.
Okay, so if you go over here to page 23, you'll see where it says appropriate. So I'm just be it further resolved that $3,718,520 of the total available is appropriated in the school's lunch fund. So that's what threw me.
Yes, so those are the expenses, so you
Okay.
have the one where you have the total revenues and unappropriated fund.
Mhm.
Is before you start talking about the revenue.
Okay.
And then where it says, be it further resolved that the 3.7 million is appropriated, that's the amount that we're gonna spend, so that ties to the expense.
Okay, so for clarification purpose for me, when I see unappropriated funds, that's mean unrestricted, free funds?
That's your fund balance, that's the money that we have left in the bank that we can use for future stuff.
Okay, one last question. On the expenditures, it was probably my misunderstanding. I was thinking that the student activity funds was actually the athletic activities. That's why I was questioning the what, 65,000?
Yes.
So go ahead.
Student activity is our money that we,
Correct,
like it's fundraising money, so athletic funds is part of our general fund budget.
correct.
You'll see athletic activities in the line.
So that would be where the transportation would go for after school activities. Would that come out of that funding?
For athletics.
For
yes.
athletics, okay. So uniforms and everything come out of 253,000.
Correct.
That sounds a whole lot better. I thought we were just using $65,000 a year for the students. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any more? Any no further discussion? Roll call to adopt 11.37, resolution to adopt the final budget. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President Marshall?
Yes.
President Bowman?
Yes.
Trustee Young?
No.
Trustee King?
Yes.
And myself, yes, 6 yes, 1 no. Please, John.
I seek a motion in a second from the board to approve 11.38 resolution to adopt initial budget 2026-27.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
I move to approve item 11.38.
Support.
then properly moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
So this is just the initial budget that we amended. We're just asking it to get it passed. Okay.
The initial budget.
That's the initial. Then no further discussion, roll call. To adopt 11.38, Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Treasurer Norman?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford?
No.
Myself, yes, 6 yes, 1 no. Proceed, Mr. Jones.
Seek a motion in a second from the board to approve 11.39 tax levies 2026-2027.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move to approve item 11.39.
Support.
it's been properly moved second. Is there any discussion? Then no further discussion, we do a roll call. For 11.39 tax levy. Trustee Rutherford?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Norman?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
Trustee Booth?
Yes.
Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Myself, yes, 7 yes, you don't know the motion passed. At this time, we will take remarks from board members, then the remarks from minutes, please. Is there any board member that would like to have any comments or remarks?
Yeah, Madam Chair. I'll go first. First, I want to say thank you to the community and our partners, and also to the Board of Education. Today, like I said in the speech, is where we made a dream into reality today. We promised, there's been so many promises and possibilities there, but for us to get to this point where we are, I'm excited for our future. We just got to continue moving forward as we've been doing. Just saying thank you. It's a good day.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Rutherford?
and to kind of go along with Trustee King says, today was a good day. It's what partnership looks like, everyone coming to the table. And someone made a statement today about the rain and how the rain is significant of washing away the old and welcoming in the new. And everything was done wonderfully. I want to thank everyone behind the scenes again for making everything so wonderful. And it's just the beginning to move forward. And I just ask everyone to continue to move forward. Today was a good day. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, I would just kind of repeat those sentiments that my two colleagues mentioned, but I would also say let's really begin to focus on the programmatic piece of the high school. So the 5 different academies, making sure we have adequate and credentialed staff for the different programming, and also that we implement our partnership programming. So, for example, skilled trades with Fidelity. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to say, all the pomp and circumstance was great. I'm really grateful to the community, especially for coming out in the rain. But in this meeting, I'm really grateful to Ms. Davis and Ms. Fields for their hard work on the graduation initiative. I'm really excited about that because, as everyone said, you know, we can have a new building, but it's what you put in the building, and so we've got a lot of work cut out for us. The zero balance budget, I think needs to get going immediately. That's something that I would like to see even start before October, because we have a lot of institutional stuff to deal with. We're making a clean start. We're going to have a new strategic plan, a new high school, a new program. We're going to have a new budget. We're going to cut out all the old stuff that's just been passed for the last couple of decades just because it's always been there. And that includes new allocations for title money. Just because we have grant money doesn't mean it's free and that we can just spend it. However, we're going to be intentional and have it aligned with the strategic plan and what students actually need, not other considerations. And thank you to Danielle for an excellent initial budget summary. I can't believe you did that in 3 months, and it's so nice going from being told the money's in the bank, deal with it, to having something comprehensive that we can work with, and move forward. Our eyes are wide open, but we're ready to go, and I think today shows that. Thank you to everybody.
Trustee Booth? Yes, I would like to ditto what my colleagues have mentioned, have stated. And Danielle, yes, this is very nice, clearly laid out. This is like budget 101 again for me. I never understood what a zero budget was. You know, when trustee mentioned it, I said, "Oh, okay, what is a zero budget?" I mean, you don't have a budget, but now I understand, you know, what a zero budget is. And Traci and Kelly, thank you so much for everything you're doing to push our kids forward, because that is so important right now. Our kids are, you know, I'm not going to say they're failing. I'm going to say they're struggling, you know, and we want to, you know, get them where they should be, especially our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. We want them to be prepared when they go into the new high school. We want all of them, K through 12. We want them all prepared because they're all going to take that path. Great job. Trustee Perkins.
Sister Traci, I listened to you talk about when the data and everything starts in the pre-K, you said, and that was profound. Sister Kelly Fields, I want to commend you all on the graduation. It was the best that I've sat under this year. You had everything rolled out. It was so magnificently put together, and we breezed right through it, and I appreciated that. I do have concerns about the data and the productivity, though, and I would like for you to talk with the board or me or whoever about monitoring how that data, are all the teachers up to snuff on how to pull the data and do those kinds of things? And I'm concerned about that because I'm in academics with Sister Booz here, and I want to really know that they're doing and that they're giving our kids the best of the best. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Superintendent Jones.
Yes, thank you, Board President. Just want to start out and say thank you to all of you who worked hard. Ditto some of the sentiments of board members that spoke about the team and the behind the scenes stuff that's going on. Being in the rain today, taking people from their cars, preparing programs, putting up with hurry up and get this done. Let's make sure it's right. Thank you to the team for that. That's much appreciated. It's the things that people don't see. That's the sweat and sometimes the tears. I also would like to just thank our partners for the hard work and dedication. Mr. Thomas was up there putting up stuff too, so thank you for that. Making sure that rain wasn't all on you all's hair and things of that nature. So Kim and all the team, thank you for that. Ridgeway, just don't want to overlook $100 million. To Dr. Pamela Pugh, who was there today. She was instrumental in letters for 12D back when we did that.
Yes, she
So
did,
I want
yeah.
to
Mhm.
acknowledge Dr. Pugh and Senator Cherry spoke so well today.
Yes,
I've
did.
never heard him speak like that. So just thanking all the partners and thanking the team and board. I just want to say I meant what I said today about you, the work that you've done and the support that you have given, all the hard meetings and all of the stuff that we go through. I think it's worth it for us to get where we're going. And we're gonna lace up our boots and keep going. I'm gonna take a few days off
Yes.
get
And
some
also,
rest.
and also Judge
That's-
Marsh.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a few days off here and get some rest. But the team is gonna keep the district moving and it was a couple judges there today, so thank them for coming. And my mom came today. Yes, she doesn't really get out much, so thank you for allowing us to be able to bring family and friends. So just thank everyone. Dr. Jones, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone, but I do want to let the board know that we got a meeting. We need at least, for, we need additional work for 3 more parks. So we're gonna need to have a special meeting. Am I correct?
Oh, for playground.
For the playground. I
Yeah,
keep saying park. Yeah,
playground.
for the playground. So we will be sending out, trying to get a date, for those particular meetings. I do want,
Monday, I think it's Monday.
it's Monday, yes.
At 4?
And boy, man, we just at the beginning of a new beginning. It takes a lot of work. It's gonna take us to do a lot of work. And I just want to thank the community for coming out. I want to thank Special Miss Traci Davis because I know it was rough getting in here at 2 or 3 o'clock this morning, but we did make it. I just want to thank all the partners, and this is a lot of work. People see us sitting here, but behind the stage, amen. My husband asked me today since we was doing the groundbreaking. He said, "So that meant that you can slow down now?" I said, "No, it's just the beginning." I said, "No, it's just the beginning." But it shows the most important thing. It's time for Flint to heal, and I think today showed that we're in a healing process, and we've done something within 50 years to give this generation a new school and getting our kids to learn how to live together no matter where you're from or what school you go to. And I think this is what we're trying to show that we are trying to get this academic together. And we are, we have a challenge because we're stepping out of the box to make sure that academic will be our major concern going forth. A new school means nothing. It's just like if you don't put anything in it. So I appreciate all of you. I appreciate my partners. Um, and yeah, and
Sorry.
yes, and
Dr. Desmond.
yes, I really, really appreciate the library allowing us to save time to come over here and have a meeting. It's really not a bad place to kind of we look at going as Trustee King always said we need to go to different places. So what do you think of that? Yeah, I think it was great. It was a great opportunity because we want to serve the whole community and be wherever the community is at. So, so I thank everybody. 7:20. we're out the door as we promised. And you guys have a great day. And this meeting's adjourned at 7:22.
All right, buddy.